you ready, Pat? All right, if we could get everyone to take their seats, we'll try to get started with the first meeting this evening. We'll call to order the second public hearing for the proposed 2019-2020 budget. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a silent prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Brunelli.
Present.
Alderwoman Cotto. Alderwoman Cavallo.
Here.
Alderman DiGiovincarlo.
Here.
Alderman Dorso is here. Alderman Giacomi.
Here.
Is here. Alderman Kula.
Here.
Alderman Lopez. Alderman Matthews.
Present.
Alderman Martinez McCarthy.
Here.
Alderman Nugent.
Present.
Alderman Salvio.
Here.
Alderman Sherman.
Here.
Alderman Weaver.
Here.
Alderman Pranaruski.
Here.
14 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. With that, we'll go right to the public hearing. Steve, has anyone signed up? No?
President.
All right. We'll stand down for about 5 minutes, see if anybody shows up, and then we'll close it, okay?
Okay,
So,
very good.
We'll just take a break for 5 minutes. We'll come back and see where we are. Thank you.
Oh, I got mixed up. Okay, so the regular meeting's next.
No, it goes here and this, and then that's it. One
Regular meeting's the next. Okay.
All right. It's been about 10 minutes or so. Steve, has anybody come to sign up? No? All right. With that, it now being 6:45, we will close the public hearing for the 2019-2020 budget, and we will adjourn until 7 o'clock. We have a special meeting. We cannot start before 7 because it was posted for that time, so we'll come back at 7 to take up the issue of the Wendell Cross construction manager at risk contract. Thank you. All right, if we could get everyone to take their seats, we will come back. And we will call to order the special meeting for the Board of Aldermen with respect to the construction manager at risk contract for the Wendell Cross School project. Again, if everyone would please stand for the pledge and a silent prayer. And I would ask that in your prayers tonight you keep the victims of the shooting last week in Virginia in your prayers this evening. In the name of the Father, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, that's all
We'll
right.
have a separate record
Yeah,
for this.
Okay. Alderman Brunelli.
Still present.
Alderwoman Cavallo.
Present.
Alderwoman Cotto.
Present.
Alderman DiGiovincarlo.
Here.
Alderman Dorso.
Here.
Alderman Giacomi.
Here.
Alderman Kula.
Here.
Alderman Lopez.
Here.
Alderman Matthews.
Present.
Alderwoman Martinez McCarthy.
Here.
Alderman Nugent.
Present.
Alderman Salvio.
Present.
Alderman Sherman. Alderman Weaver.
Here.
Alderman Pranaruski.
Here.
15 present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Has anyone signed up to speak?
No, Mr.
Is
President.
there anybody here who wants to speak to the construction manager at risk contract? Okay, with that, then the next item of business would be to take up the contract. So with that, I don't know, is somebody going to do a presentation? Mike, did you have any kind of a presentation? Or? Well, let's do this. Actually, let's do this first. So in order to take it up under the rules, I would entertain a motion that we resolve ourselves into a committee of the whole for the purpose of considering and acting on the construction manager at risk contract for the Wendell Cross project.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Alderman Brunelli and seconded by Alderman Lopez. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, with that then, I would entertain a motion with respect to the contract.
So moved.
A motion to approve the contract?
Motion to approve contract item number 3.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Brunelli and seconded by Alderman Lopez. With that, is there any discussion? Alderman Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mike. Concerning progress payments, under definitions 1.2.36, it says payments to construction manager based on percentage of work completed as measured against construction manager's work. Who defines that? The wording there is a little confusing to me. It sounds like it might be the construction manager who's saying the work is complete. Who's measuring that?
Okay, so the actual measurement and verification will be by 2 other parties other than the construction manager. The first party is the architect. The architect will review each monthly application for payment, which within those applications for payment, there's a schedule of values that identifies the allocated amount for each one of those scheduled items in the project. It will reflect the work that has been completed to date, the work that has been completed during that month for which the application is applicable to, and then reflect the percentage in relation to the total amount that's been, again, authorized for that component of the scheduled value. The architect, in reviewing the application for payment, reviews the work and verifies it, that it's in accordance with the specifications that have been identified in the design plans, and also as it relates to the percentage of work in relation to the 100% total value. In addition to that review and certification, the city has a project manager, owner representative project manager. Standing behind me is Santiago Bolanes, and he will be assigned to this project full-time during the pre-construction and construction phases. He will be charged with reviewing the work, inspecting the work as it progresses, and he will also be reviewing and signing off on each monthly application for payment, and in his estimation or in his evaluation, attesting to the percentage of work that's been completed in relation to the total scheduled value.
And it's my understanding Santiago managed the project for the Public Works facility. And it's also my understanding that Santiago was able to find some shortfallings from the contractors that were working on that project. Is that not the case? Jim Nardozzi had mentioned that throughout the project, Santiago was able to find some of those misgivings and have them corrected.
That is correct, and I think as a courtesy, if I could give Santiago the opportunity to comment on some of
Please.
the work that he had done with the DPW facility.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sherman. Yes, so throughout the progress of the construction, I will verify, the progress of each of the tasks. Throughout that process, if there's an opportunity for savings, for corrections of mistakes, omissions, we will find the best way, the most effective way to save money to the project.
Sure.
In the case of the DPW project, we run into some instances where the soil cleanup, this being a brownfield, we had to take some special care for controlling the cost of the disposal of the soils. So this being a school project, not in a brownfield, we don't expect that type of situation. But throughout the same process, we will evaluate each of the tasks to make sure the progress payments really go hand in hand with the schedule values.
And that's based off of the master project schedule, and then the contractor's construction schedule is based off of that, I assume.
Correct.
Now, these monthly reports you'll be seeing, it sounds like there's interest in possibly us or the building committee seeing those reports as well. Is that a possibility?
Of course it is. So as part of the contract, the construction manager is required to provide a monthly progress report, which has a variety of logs as far as change order logs, RFIs, all sorts of things that we want to track through a monthly basis. And that will be part of that report, and we can always disseminate that to anyone who wants to see it.
When this project is done and it's ready to be handed over to the city for us to allow our students back in, who gets the final say that we accept the building as presented to us? If, we've run into some issues at some of the other schools throughout the city. Who's going to be making that final decision?
So a number of people will be involved in that process. First, the architect would have to issue a certificate of final completion. That means the architect has agreed that all the work is done to the specifications of the design documents. Myself, as the project manager, I would verify on the field regularly, especially at the end. So there will be a period for punch list where the owner can occupy the space, in this case the students, and the contractor will have an opportunity to correct a number of things until a final completion. At that point, we would issue a final payment once all the work has been corrected.
And with the contractor, who is actually at risk? Is it the contractor? Is it the architect?
The construction manager would be the entity considered to be at risk because there's a GMP, basically a guaranteed maximum price. They will guarantee that the project will be complete under that number, under that GMP. Anything beyond that would be on the construction manager.
Concerning quality concerns, how long do we have, or how much recourse do we have, say 6 months out, if there happens to be an issue with an AC unit or any other issue, a window?
That's a great question. We have stipulated through the architect's specifications the warranties for all of the equipment. So the architect, for instance, will say all of the HVAC equipment must be given with a 2-year warranty after after the substantial completion, for instance. So at that point, the clock starts to tick for warranty. And the same goes for finishes, for the work done on on site, not only the equipment but everything else.
Thank you very much, Santiago.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Any further discussion or further questions? Alderman Lopez?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a quick question regarding the time frame. As I looked at the document, are we targeting school year 2021, 2022 as a start class for after the project is finished?
We are targeting a completion of July 2021. So it would be the fall of 2021, that school year starting then. So it'd be the 2021-2022 school year.
Okay. And I don't know if I should bring this up, but page 1, item list under number 4, construction manager fee for construction services, the 1.2% actually equals to $463,000, not $436,000. But if they want to leave it at $436,000, that's fine.
Yeah, that was the amount that was included in the response to the RFP.
Thank you.
Alderman DiGiovancarlo?
Just to piggyback off Alderman Sherman, so if a wall in 5 years from now, a wall begins to crumble, the wall's not solid, we're going after the contractor, not the contractor at risk, correct? The builder. And what recourse do we have if a wall does start to collapse or crumble, floors break or cracks settle? what is our recourse?
Speak to that? Sure. So again, certain warranties will start at substantial completion. Some other issues may appear after that warranty period, which if the contract does not cover those issues, then it would be on the owner, unfortunately. But for the most part, if these are issues that are identified during the construction, these will be corrected before the end of the project.
Right, but, I mean, I buy a brand-new car, I get a 5-6 year warranty. We spend $46 million, we only get, that's what I'm confused at that point now that he has brought it up. In 3 years from now, the wall starts crumbling, the wall starts breaking. We actually have to go after them legally in order to fix this problem, correct?
If it's outside of the warranty period, yes.
And the warranty period for a building part is just 1 year?
No, it depends on the particular element that we're talking about.
The structure, the solid structure of that building, how long are we warranted on the school itself, the solid building?
Mike, do you want to speak to that particular?
Just quickly to introduce this individual, this is Mike Serrano. He is the architect with Fryer Architects on this project.
Good evening, Mike Serrano, Fryer Architecture. Statutorily, I think that there's a 7-year, if there was a material defect or there was a breach in construction detail that wasn't done correctly and wasn't caught, you reach out to a forensic expert. You can reach back to the architect, you can reach back to the construction manager to come back and check it. If we found that there isn't something corrected that is causing the problem, because if it's built correctly, it's going to last. You know, these buildings.
Right, that's my point. If
yeah,
it's
these buildings.
built, yeah.
Right. If it's correct, it shouldn't be a problem. So if it was something that was missed, you certainly can take action at that point with forensic. You can always contact us. Always contact the construction manager to try to resolve it.
Okay, so I guess I got a question for Attorney Wibby. So were we statutorily covered under the Duggan School when that wall collapsed?
So I think that's what you were asking.
Yeah, because
You're
I mean,
basically asking, what is the statute of limitations? How long do we have to sue somebody or litigate it? And that's exactly what it would be. It would be litigation where we have to go after someone. So under the different statute of limitations, if it's a defect, if it's a reasonably discoverable defect, and what time period you have to discover it, that's what we're looking at. And I think that's what you're referring to as the 7 years, is like a statute of limitations. But if it was a hidden defect that you would not have discovered it for a period of time, it starts from that point. So it depends is the answer, and that's how lawyers answer, and I'm sorry. It depends if it's when it would be reasonable to discover the defect.
okay.
And then it starts
That's what I'm worried about. You know, we always seem to discover the defects after everything is gone. So we have a builder that basically we're only getting 1 year warranty on that building. That's
So it's statutorily, most of the warranties are a year, and I think in some of these it's built in a little bit longer, or it goes by the statutory. Duggan was covered.
Yep.
We were within the limitation period. We filed the lawsuit, we filed the claim timely on that matter, so we did not miss that limitation period.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Further questions? Alderman Sherman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Concerning the monthly progress reports, I know that's probably not something that would come to our board, but is there a way we can verify that the Board of Ed or possibly the Building Committee would actually see that during the progress of this project?
I mean, is your question, is there some way we could verify it? I mean, I guess we could ask them if they're seeing it or require them to see it. We could have them send copies here if you want to see them, but they're not, it's going to get tedious. But who do the monthly progress reports go to now? Who would they go to?
They would go to the building committee.
To the building committee.
As well as other individuals that are involved in this project, certainly including myself, Will Clark. Santiago will absolutely receive the monthly progress report provided by the construction manager. But certainly once the project gets underway, the school building committee will be updated on a regular basis and would be included with the distribution of that monthly progress report.
And I would think that if during the course of the construction, if somebody wanted to get copies of those, I don't know that we want them sent here regularly, but if, for instance, at some point you wanted to get those, we could go through WDC and get them, so. Does that answer your question?
It does. I do have another, though. I know we covered Duggan School. We accepted Reed School with a cracked floor. Is that something we would see with this project? I hope not, but
Yeah, I think speaking to the duration of time before completion of the project and addressing all the issues, with Jonathan Reed, I think there was a long duration before the school was ultimately accepted, duration between, again, completion, full completion and acceptance by the Board of Ed. We have, with this project and the contractual arrangements and the discussions that we have with both the architect, have had with both the architect and the construction manager, we are expecting that this project will be efficiently closed out with their efforts so that we can finalize and submit the closeout documents with the state so they can also close it out on their end. We would anticipate it would be in the time frame of 6 months to a year after completion, where it would be before the Board of Education for acceptance of the project as complete. As Santiago had referenced in his comments, there will be a thorough walkthrough of the facility. All the punch list items will absolutely need to be addressed. Additionally, there'll be members from the school building committee and the board that will be walking through the facility, and their concerns or thoughts will absolutely be taken into account. We will hold retainage on the project until absolutely everything is addressed to our satisfaction. And again, at that point, then there'll be what we are fully expect will be an efficient process to get the closeout, so then it can be presented to the Board of Education for acceptance.
now, if I have a project in my house, I have an inspector come out to inspect the plumbing or the electrical work. Is something like that happening with the school as well? Is it Santiago or is it someone else? How does that proceed?
I can speak to what I know of at this point and certainly have Santiago comment. It will be Santiago. Again, it will be the architect, and additionally, there'll be a commissioning agent that will be retained through this process where they, specifically on the HAVEC systems, will be inspecting those, making sure that they're operating according to the specifications and expectations. We are actually currently under some discussions to see about expanding the scope of review that the commissioning agent could provide. And Santiago, if you'd like, you can speak to that.
Sure. And actually, I'd like to speak to something else as far as the inspections go, because that third party, there's another level of oversight, which is the material testing and the inspections and the material. So, for instance, when you get the concrete on site, somebody will take a sample and perform a slump test and make sure it meets the spec before it gets poured, right? So we pay through the project an additional person who would inspect the materials, the welds, the bolts, and this is a separate agency. It's not the construction manager, it's not the architect, it's not WDC. If they find any issues, they would hand to us a report describing those issues so that we take corrective action, all right? And then on top of that, we have the commissioning agent, which would be focused mostly on the mechanical equipment, the building. So there's multiple levels of oversight to make sure we cover all the bases.
With the cement pours, I assume that's predominantly the foundations and the flooring?
Correct.
The person that inspects that particular aspect, I assume they're there from the beginning to the end, because we're going to have multiple vehicles coming in with different...
Correct. The inspector for the concrete would be for as long as there's concrete pours.
Okay.
Maybe after 50% of the progress, there's no more concrete pours, so that person is finished, and then another inspector would come and inspect the pavement, make sure it's compacted, make sure it performs it to specs. Same thing for the bolts, the welds, everything like that.
You also mentioned the HVAC, and I recall there being issues with HVAC at WAMS, with the AC unit and the heating unit competing. I'm not sure what the cause of that was. Is that something that's in the back of our heads when we have a project like this coming forward to make sure that we don't run into an issue like that again?
Correct. That's something that the commissioning agent would oversee. It's the balancing of the mechanical equipment, making sure the controls, which these days are very intelligent, they control all of the mechanical equipment in a way that makes sense operationally. So this person would go through a very specific list of items just to make sure everything works.
And they actually test. I assume they're going to test that it's moving so many cubic feet per minute, whatever needs to be done to adequately cool or heat that facility.
Exactly. They would take actually a measuring device and put it on the vents to measure the flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Santiago.
You're welcome.
Alderman Lopez?
Thank you, Mr. President. Santiago, has anyone or the architects, has anyone had an opportunity to go up to Wendell Cross now? And has any soil testing been done? Are there any walls? I know we needed a roof. Are there any walls shifting? Is there soil that is, any concerns with the soil, the way that Wendell Cross is now? Has that been done?
Thanks for the question, Alderman Victor. It's very important to know what's underground before we go and build anything. So yes, the answer is yes. There's borings being taken in multiple locations where the new building is going to be located. As far as hazardous materials, there's been already a level of inspections and testing. Once the students are relocated to St. Joseph's, another tier of inspections for hazardous materials is going to be done prior to demolition to know if there's any hazardous waste, to identify the different streams of waste, and to know to which landfills it would go.
Have you received any concerns from any reports, any concern the soil is dipping? I know we had that issue at Municipal Stadium. So far from what has been done so far, have you received anything that's concerning to you as far as being the project manager?
I haven't seen the reports yet. I know the test borings were done last week. Is that correct, Mike? So I haven't had a chance to see those reports yet. So because we're still in a preliminary phase of the site development, the structural engineer would be the first person to get a hold of them. They would communicate to us through the architect to let us know if there's any major issues with the foundations or the soils. So as soon as we have that information, we can certainly make it available. But at this point, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen the reports yet.
And also, if I just may pick your brain on, and with your experience, Jonathan Reed School was actually built on a lot that we had to bring in a lot of dirt and soil and on all those to be able to build it. Wendell Cross is an existing building in that site. Could you kind of talk about what could be expected and not expected, or if you can compare the two sites?
Sure. Roughly, the existing building is going to be demolished to about 80%. 20% we're going to keep to be refurbished, renovated as new. The new buildings are going to occupy partially the footprint of the existing building, but some other new wings are going to be located in areas where there hasn't been any buildings before. So the buildings will be situated in a way to utilize the topography of the site as best as possible. If you're familiar with Wendell Cross, you'll know that it's on a hill. Going up to the school is on a hill. So the civil engineers and the architects are working hard to do cuts and fills to try to equalize those as much as possible to reduce the cost of importing clean fill or having to, you know, cut more than necessary. So it's all of like a balancing act on site, basically.
Okay. So again, I don't know, you know, about anything about construction, but I'm assuming that there's probably not going to be as much soil needed or replaced as we had in Jonathan Reed School when it was built.
That's my presumption as well. Again, the architect is going to try to balance the cuts and the fills as best as possible. There's going to be some retaining walls, so that might increase the cost of the site development, because the way the site is currently, it doesn't allow for enough parking spaces and for a good circulation of buses. So along with the cut and fills, there's going to be some retaining walls to help with the traffic.
Okay, thanks for explaining it to me.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, then the motion on the table is to Alderman Nugent.
Thank you. Mr. Santiago? How are you?
Hey, good. Hi.
Thank you for coming today. Quick question. You had mentioned that 20% of the existing building is to maintain, and then it's going to be used for the new school as well?
Yeah, so the existing building, only 20% of it, approximately 20% of it is going to remain.
Why is that? I thought we were going to demolish the whole thing and start from the ground up.
That's a great question. It has a lot to do with the state and what the state allows us to do under the initial application that went to them for the renovation. There was an application in which a program was specified, and they allowed us to do certain amount of demolition. And through a process, we asked them to let us extend the demolition a little bit more because it was more cost effective, but we couldn't do a full demo under the existing grant application with the state.
Why is that, and what was the problem?
I don't think that it's a problem. It's just the way the application was submitted to the state. It was for a particular type of improvement. It was a renovation and addition, and they allowed us to do more additions, but we couldn't just go and demo the entire school. And another factor is in that 20% of the school that we're going to keep, there's some recent improvements that were done, like an elevator was done a few years ago. So it would be wasteful to go and demo something that is still in very good shape.
And I'm assuming if that's the case, the approximately 20% is still going to be obviously under warranties or anything like that if something was to happen.
Correct. Basically, that 20% is going to be gutted out down to the beams, the columns, and everything else is going to be replaced inside of it.
What percentage is the new building going to be bigger than the existing building?
Mike, do you remember the numbers? From 30 to 88,000. Yeah, so considerably.
What was the answer?
So the answer is more than twice.
So it's double the size?
More
of the
than
existing.
double the size.
Out or up?
A footprint, I mean, we're talking square footage, so
Okay.
it doesn't really matter if it's,
Is the hill or any of the topography going to change at all, especially going up to the school? Is it going to be like a...
Yeah, it's going to change.
Is the incline going to be a little bit...
It's actually going to
Less
be a little
steep?
bit more cut at the top, so because it's pretty steep going up.
I mean, it's hard to kind of see if someone could be walking in the driveway as you're going up and
Correct.
you're looking at the sky, and
Exactly.
by the time...
So the buildings are going to be situated more on the perimeter of the hill,
Okay.
and the top area would be mostly parking area.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Just a couple comments. As you come up that driveway, it will be dropped down a little bit. There's only, you can only go to a certain degree without compromising ultimately the structure of the new facility. But in line with what Santiago had indicated, the existing footprint, 80% of it's going to be demolished. The new building structure will then cover that existing footprint and wrap around the existing driveway loop, and then come down on the left side. As if you're coming in from that main driveway on the left-hand side, the building will actually extend all the way around that area. As far as the space, the educational space, it'll be a two-story facility throughout, providing for the classrooms pre-K through 8th grade with 3 classrooms per grade. So it's going to be a substantially larger facility. But the preliminary drawings that we've seen, the architects have done a very nice job in establishing a design layout that really fits well into the location in the neighborhood. And at the end of the day, I know we didn't speak to it too much with any opening comments, but we are very well positioned. We went to the state and asked them to give consideration for our preferred option. To your comment as far as why didn't we demolish the whole thing, that would have required us to go forward to the state with a brand new application. So they really worked with us, and asked for information that allowed the state at the end of the day to really expand what could be done within the existing application, which is providing for, it's actually nearly 83% demolition. And again, that remaining space, it will be covered under the project. It will be gutted. At the end of the day, the only piece of that remaining space that won't be pulled out, if you will, is going to be the steel in the elevator. Everything else will be construction, renovation is new for the project. So we're able to, under this grant agreement with the state, to fully capitalize on the reimbursement rate at 78%. It is aggressive. We have an aggressive schedule in place. There is an October 1 deadline to have the shovel in the ground, and everything is being situated so that we will be able to begin the pre-construction phase as we get into the latter part of the summer, early September timeframe. And we'll be underway with the actual construction of the facility targeted to get underway in the February-March timeframe of next year.
Okay. So again, it's pre-K to 8th, 3 classes, so about minimum 33 classrooms, regular classrooms, not including any science labs or obviously library, things like that.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, you are looking at 30 classrooms, and then certainly the additional space for administration and for the other extracurricular activities. Plus, you've certainly got the space for there'll be a gym, cafeteria set up as well.
Is the hill still going to be utilized as an entrance? I mean, isn't there a way to kind of build around that and just...
What's been designed to this point actually has what would be two primary entryways into the facility. There's, and actually just this afternoon we went into further discussions. What's planned is to actually have 2 separate loops, one for buses and one for parents drop-off. And then those 2 entryways, separate entryways going into the building for the areas where they would assess in the morning before they go out to their classrooms. That said, there'll be one primary entrance for the facility where any visitors, they would come to that primary entrance.
So it's going to be kind of like a Maloney thing where it's just separate access to the buses and parents are a different route, just to kind of leave the congestion, so there's not so much congestion at either pickup and drop-offs.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Maloney, but absolutely the objective here is to address the congestion issues and the crossing of buses with parents during the drop-off and pickup timeframes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, then the motion on the floor is a motion to approve the agreement with Newfield Construction Group for the construction manager at risk services for the Wendell Cross pre-K to 8th grade school construction project. A yes vote will be to approve the contract, a no vote to disapprove it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The motion carries. The contract is approved. With that, I would entertain a motion that we come out of the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
Motion having been made and seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And then just to close the loop, I would report that the Committee of the Whole recommends approval of the construction manager at risk contract with Newfield Construction for Wendell Cross Pre-K to 8. Is there a motion?
Motion approved contract.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Brunelli, second by Alderman Lopez. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries. The contract is approved. This being a special meeting, there's no further business that can come before us this evening. I would simply remind you that we'll be back on Thursday at 6:30 to take up the 2019-2020 budget. With that, Alderman Brunelli.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion having been made and seconded by Alderman Lopez. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries. We're adjourned.